limb. Our life together was like something out of a dream. We shared everything, from lazy Sunday mornings to
For years, I thought my life was everything I ever wanted. I had the house, the job, and most importantly, the woman who stood beside me, Ria. Our life together was like something out of a dream. We shared everything, from lazy Sunday mornings to big, ambitious plans for future. It felt like we were two halves of the same whole, destined to be together forever. But everything changed the moment I found out the truth. It wasn't dramatic at first, just little things. Ria became distant, quieter than usual. She worked late, started spending more time away from home. At first, I thought it was stress from work, or maybe she just needed some space. But something felt off. The connection we once had, the spark we shared, slowly began to fade. I was blind, so caught up in our life, in the idea of us, that I didn't see the signs until it was too late. One evening, Ria confessed. She told me she had met someone she believed was her soulmate. Her words felt like a punch to the gut. I didn't want to believe it, but she wasn't looking at me the same way anymore. That's when I realized I wasn't the man she needed. She had chosen him. The weight of her betrayal hit harder than anything I'd ever known. The life we built together, the future we had talked about for so long, was all gone in an instant. In that moment, something inside me snapped. It wasn't just heartbreak I felt. It was rage, and more than that, an unrelenting desire for revenge. If she thought she could replace me, I would make sure she and her soulmate would never forget what they had done. The days that followed Ria's confession felt like a blur. It was as if I was living in a nightmare, unable to wake up. I couldn't bring myself to sleep, my mind constantly replaying her words. I've met someone, he's my soulmate. Those words echoed in my head, cutting deeper each time I thought about them. I couldn't escape them. It wasn't just the pain of losing her, it was the humiliation, the feeling of being replaced, of being cast aside so easily. How could she throw away everything we had for someone else? How could she betray me, the man who had loved her with every ounce of his being? I kept asking myself what went wrong. Was I not enough? Did I fail her somewhere along the way? The answers never came. All I were these gnawing questions and the constant, suffocating ache in my chest. Every time I saw her, I saw the distance between us growing wider. She seemed almost at peace with her decision, as though she had already moved on while I was still stuck in this endless loop of confusion and hurt. The anger started building. I felt it rising within me, a surge of emotion so powerful that it made my hands tremble. It wasn't just sadness anymore, it was rage. Rage that she could treat me this way. Rage that she had made a mockery of everything we built together. I couldn't let her get away with it. I wasn't going to stand by and let them walk off into the sunset, happy and untouched by the wreckage they had caused. And that's when the idea hit me. I could feel it, sharp and cold revenge. It was a dangerous thought at first, one that I tried to push away. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. She had taken something from me, something irreplaceable, and I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about making her feel the weight of her actions. She needed to understand what it felt like to lose everything. I started planning. Carefully, methodically. I wasn't going to lash out in a fit of rage. No, this would be calculated. I would make them pay, not just in a way that would hurt them in the moment, but in a way that would haunt them. I would ensure that their lives, their love, would never be the same. They needed to feel the consequences of their betrayal, of how easily they had dismissed me, their past, and our life together. In that moment, I understood something. I wasn't just angry at Ria for falling in love with someone else. I was angry at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I had been blind, too trusting, too eager to believe in our perfect little world. But now, the blinders were off. I wasn't the man who would let this slide. I was the man who would make them regret ever thinking they could get away with it. I had a plan, and no matter what it took, I would follow through. The first step of my plan was to learn everything I could about Ryan. I had to understand who he was, his weaknesses, his past, everything that could be used against him. At first, it was slow, casual observations, making connections through old acquaintances and mutual friends. But the more I dug, the more I found. Ryan had a history, just like anyone. He had skeletons in his closet, flings he denied, questionable business deals, and a troubled past that no one knew about. I was going to make sure those secrets came to light. I started by planting seeds of doubt. I gathered people who had known him in the past, and I dropped subtle hints in conversations. I told stories of his mistakes, his past failures, and things he'd rather keep buried. Slowly, his reputation began to crack. Colleagues at work started whispering, and old friends began to distance themselves. Ria didn't notice at first. She was too lost in her new soulmate to see the cracks in his perfect facade. But the tension was building, and I knew it wouldn't take long before she started to notice. At the same time, I began appearing in places Ria frequented, but always in a way that felt like an accident. A passing encounter at the store, a chance meeting at a cafe. I made sure she saw me, but never approached her directly. I wasn't trying to rekindle anything. I was making her uncomfortable, reminding her that I was still in the picture, still affected by what she'd done. Each time I saw that unease in her eyes, I knew I was getting closer to breaking her down. The final move came when I arranged for a confrontation. I set up a meeting at a local gathering, a place where friends, family, and acquaintances would be present. I knew Ria and Ryan would be there together, their love now public. At that moment, I revealed everything his past, their affair, and the destruction they had caused. The room fell silent. The look on Ria's face told me everything. She hadn't expected this, and neither had Ryan. Their world came crashing down, and I was the architect of their downfall. The aftermath of my plan was swift and undeniable. The moment the truth was laid bare in front of everyone, the consequences were immediate. Ria stood there, frozen, as the weight of her betrayal crashed down on her. The people who once admired her, who looked up to her for being the picture of grace and loyalty, now saw her in a different light. The whispers started almost immediately. Eyes that had once been warm with sympathy now turned cold, filled with judgment. Her friends avoided her, her family unsure of how to act. The image of her perfect life, her happy relationship with Ryan, was shattered. Ryan, too, felt the full force of the fallout. His carefully curated reputation crumbled before him. The whispers about his past mistakes long buried spread like wildfire. People who once respected him now saw him for what he truly was, a man who had helped destroy another's life for selfish gain. His colleagues began distancing themselves, his friends pulled away, and even his business prospects began to dry up. In an instant, he went from being the charming soulmate to an outcast. His world turned upside down. Ria tried to salvage what she could, reaching out to me with apologies and pleading for forgiveness. But it was too late. The damage had been done. She no longer had control over the situation. She was forced to confront the full scale of her actions of betrayal, the lies, and the life she had taken for granted. As for me, I watched from the sidelines, not feeling the satisfaction I expected. Instead, I felt empty like a hollow shell. The pain of betrayal was still there, but I realized something important. Revenge had its price. I had made them pay. But in the end, I had paid too. The scars would remain, and no amount of destruction could bring back what was lost. As the dust settled and the chaos of my revenge faded, I realized something important. The satisfaction I thought I would feel from watching Ria and Ryan crumble didn't come. Sure, they had been exposed, their lives torn apart by the truth I had revealed. But I had done something I never expected. I had lost myself in the process. The pain of betrayal that I thought revenge would cure remained, lingering deeper than before. The void I felt was still there, no matter how much I made them suffer. In the weeks that followed, I stopped focusing on their downfall. Ria reached out several times, trying to explain, to apologize, but it didn't matter anymore. Her apologies meant nothing. She had chosen him over me, and now she had to live with the consequences of that decision, just as I had to live with mine. It became clear that the only way forward was to stop looking back. Revenge hadn't given me closure. It had given me only a temporary sense of control. What I truly needed was to rebuild my life not based on anger or hurt, but on something real. I began to focus on myself. I took time to heal, to reflect, and to regain the confidence that had been lost in the wreckage of my marriage. The person I was before betrayal was still inside me, and it was time to find him again. As for Rhea and Ryan, their lives would continue to unravel, but that was no longer my concern. I had done what I needed to do, and now it was time for me to move on, to find peace in a life that was still ahead of me. The pain would always be there, but it no longer had the power to define me. It was my turn to start fresh.